Review code provided by Playdius Games. Do any of you remember those types of RCA cars that would be locked onto an electric track? It's always something I loved as a kid, but something you really don't see in video games. There are certainly some top-down races out there. I mean, you have the NES game Pro AM, which is probably the most famous example of a top-down racer, but a bunch of party games also like to include this type of gameplay as a mini-game, kind of like Mario Party 2 or Kirby's Air Ride. But there's not really been a top-down racing game that I've heard of, until now at least. Brakes Are for Losers, or BALF, as it likes to be called on the Switch UI, is a top-down racer for the Nintendo Switch that is also available on Steam, but since the Switch version is coming out soon, I'm reviewing this version. Like I just mentioned, Brakes Are for Losers is a top-down racer, but with a title like that, something had to be done with the brakes, as in well there are none. Gameplay involves you just using a few buttons, including a boost button and the analog stick. Right when you boot up the game, you'll realize your car is always in movement, and while it can be confusing at first to get used to the inverted steering, you should have no problem. Overall, I didn't have any issues controlling the game. Sure, boosting could be a bit stiff, but it isn't a problem. In fact, it kinda encourages you to plan your boost ahead of time because randomly boosting can very well send you into a wall and cause you not only your car to slow down, but also to lose health. The health system in Brakes Are for Losers is kinda similar to F-Zero, where hitting walls and other obstacles decreases your health, and when you run out, you're forced to stop for a few seconds to recover. There are pads on some tracks that allow you to restore and extend your health, and also replenishes your ability to boost, because you will only boost 3 times before not being able to until you step on one of those pads. Speaking of the tracks, there are a lot of tracks in this game, which is kinda surprising. Sure, some share a recurring theme similar to the older Mario Kart games, but it seems Playdius Games went for more quantity over quality approach, which isn't bad for this type of game. However, there are a few bad pointers I should mention. The ice tracks I felt like shouldn't have been needed because the game's controls are a little slippery already, but whatever this theme is called, the one with the multiple paths, this one's actually pretty terrible. I see what they were going for with each lap having cars go in a different direction, but I had trouble trying to focus on my car and which lane I was supposed to drive in. The notifications for which car goes into what lane should have been outlined more and given a glow effect. Removing the flashing instead would be a pretty good service because the inconsistent flashing of where your car is supposed to go into what lane is pretty annoying. Like, the best way to explain it going off script is imagine the notification flashing for, like, let's say 5 seconds in between, and then when you actually get around to get into that lane, it doesn't flash for like a good 10 to 20 seconds, so you end up going for the wrong lane, and it causes this type of track to extend up to like 5 minutes, which I feel makes it a big negative. Okay, I like these types of tracks in about 1 to 2 minutes, so spending 5 minutes just to find out where you're supposed to go, it's pretty annoying. And the AI even has some trouble, I've noticed, recording a lot off screen, that even though it's more obvious where the AI is supposed to go, because it pops up, I feel like, better for them than the actual player, they still end up driving through the wrong lanes. Other than those 2 complaints, the tracks are alright. As I mentioned, with the amount of them, there is replayability. Next are the actual game modes. Like any other racing game, they're split in your standard championship or Grand Prix mode, or there's a quick race option you can just jump in and go. There are your standard finish the amount of laps needed. There are also a few other modes like most laps within the time limit wins or last car standing. Once again, there's a lot of variety, which is great for multiplayer. Multiplayer, by the way, allows up to 8 races if you have enough controllers for the Nintendo Switch. Really cool to not only see this small indie game use 8 players, but for the fact there are more Nintendo Switch games that are having 8 players be the main focus. The one problem with multiplayer mode, however, and it kinda even affects single player to a point, is the UI in both menus and tracks. Alright, so I'm this brown car you see, and try to keep your eye best on it, like try to keep your eye glued to it. Not that hard? Well, have you been paying attention to maybe the cars around me, or the obstacles in my way? Probably not. I wish there was more effort put in to make your car visible, maybe outlining the text above the car, or maybe having a number in the corner like a Mario Kart game to show you position. It seems like a nitpick and it might just be me, but for some races I couldn't even tell who was winning or who was losing. Brakes Are For Losers overall for $5 is a pretty solid game for Nintendo Switch. While there are a bunch of shovelware on the Switch, it's really nice to see the few indie developers try their best on the platform. The highlight of the game for me would have to be the gameplay and the ability to have 8-player multiplayer. While there are a few gripes I have with the game, hopefully those can be patched out. As of right now, it still earns a 7 out of 10. You really aren't risking too much with this title. I mean, it's $5. If you have leftover change from a bigger title, or if you want to use up those Nintendo Gold points, you really can't go wrong with this game. I gotta give my thanks to PlayDS Games for giving me an early review code, and more information on Brakes For Losers can be found in the description. Well, if you guys enjoyed this small quick look at Brakes Are For Losers, be sure to leave a like and subscribe for future reviews. I have social media links and a Patreon down below. Finally, I am Cybershroom, hoping you have a good one.